Most people spend their entire lives looking at the world without ever seeing what is actually controlling them. They see careers, relationships, arguments, money, status, success, and failure. But beneath those visible things is another world made of incentives, fears, stories, and invisible social rules. Once you notice that hidden world, ordinary life starts looking strangely different. You begin hearing what people mean instead of merely hearing what they say. You begin noticing why intelligent people can defend terrible decisions. You begin seeing why crowds can feel certain and still be wrong. And eventually you discover something that can make you feel almost alone. Because there are 4 kinds of people who seem to understand the world at a deeper level. The real question is whether you are becoming one of them. There is one ability connecting all 4. That ability is the real secret behind this entire video. You will recognize it clearly near the end. But first, imagine sitting at a family dinner where everyone agrees about someone who is not there. One person calls him selfish. Another remembers every mistake he has made. Soon the entire table shares the same conclusion. Then you remember something nobody else mentions. Every person at that table has heard the story from the same angry relative. Nobody actually asked the accused person what happened. This is where the first kind of person appears. The first person who sees the world differently is the one who questions the story. Most human beings do not experience reality directly. We experience reality after our minds have interpreted it. That interpretation is shaped by memory, emotion, loyalty, fear, and expectation. 2 people can experience the same marriage and remember 2 different marriages. 2 employees can attend the same meeting and leave with completely different interpretations. This does not automatically mean someone is lying. It means the human mind is not a camera, it is a storyteller. And storytellers select details. This becomes dangerous when a repeated story starts feeling like unquestionable truth. Imagine working somewhere that celebrates people who stay late every night. Everyone calls those employees committed. Nobody asks why finishing normal work requires 12-hour days. The story says dedication. The hidden reality might be understaffing. The first person notices that difference, but questioning stories creates an uncomfortable problem. People often protect familiar explanations because those explanations protect their identity. Challenge the story and they may feel that you are challenging them. That is why seeing clearly sometimes costs social comfort. Yet questioning the story is only the first layer. The second kind of person notices something even more powerful. They notice incentives. Imagine a salesperson telling you that one particular option is perfect for you. His smile may be sincere. His advice may even be reasonable. But the second person quietly asks, what happens if I say yes? Who benefits? Who loses? What behavior is being rewarded here? This question changes how you understand human behavior. People frequently respond to incentives without consciously admitting that incentives influence them. A manager may praise sacrifice because your sacrifice makes his department perform better. A relative may call obedience respect because your obedience makes their life easier. A partner may describe your boundary as selfish because the old arrangement benefited them. This does not mean everyone is secretly malicious. That conclusion would be another simplistic story. It means good people can still become biased when an outcome serves them. The second person learns to separate intention from incentive. That distinction prevents enormous confusion, but incentives still do not explain why entire groups can ignore something obvious. For that, you need the third person. Imagine entering a meeting where everyone knows the new strategy is failing. The numbers are getting worse, customers are complaining, deadlines keep slipping, yet nobody says the obvious sentence. The executive who designed the strategy is sitting at the head of the table. So one employee praises the progress, another employee stays quiet. Soon, silence begins impersonating agreement. The third kind of person understands social pressure. Human beings are deeply sensitive to belonging. For most of our history, exclusion was not merely embarrassing. Exclusion could threaten survival. Modern life is different, but the nervous system still notices rejection. That is why people sometimes laugh when nothing is funny. That is why adults agree publicly with opinions they question privately. That is why someone can remain inside an unhealthy friendship years after recognizing the pattern. Belonging can become more emotionally powerful than accuracy. The third person notices when the crowd is creating certainty instead of discovering truth. They understand that popularity and reality are different things, but this creates another trap. Once you realize crowds can be wrong, you may start believing disagreement automatically makes you right. That is just ego wearing the costume of independence. Real independent thinking requires something harder. You must be willing to question the crowd. You must also be willing to question yourself. And that brings us to the fourth person. Imagine discovering that you were wrong about someone for 10 years. Maybe you blamed a sibling for a family conflict. Maybe you believed an old friend betrayed you. Maybe you spent years defending a career that was slowly destroying your peace. Then one piece of information changes the entire picture. Most people experience a powerful temptation in that moment. They search for a way to preserve the old belief. The fourth person does something rarer. They update. They allow new evidence to change an old conclusion. This sounds simple until the conclusion is attached to pride. Admitting that you were wrong can feel like losing part of yourself. The mind naturally prefers information that supports what it already believes. Psychologists call this confirmation bias. In ordinary life, it looks like noticing every flaw in someone you dislike. It looks like forgiving the same flaw in someone you admire. It looks like searching for evidence that protects yesterday's decision. The fourth person catches themselves doing this. They do not become perfectly objective. Nobody does. They simply become less loyal to being right. They become more loyal to seeing clearly. Now the four pieces begin fitting together. One person questions the story. One person follows the incentives. One person notices social pressure. One person changes their mind when reality demands it. These are not four secret individuals hiding somewhere in the world. They are four ways of seeing, and almost anyone can move between them. You may question stories at work while blindly accepting them inside your family. You may recognize manipulation in relationships while ignoring incentives around money. You may resist group pressure politically while surrendering to it socially. That is what makes the title's mystery more personal than it first appears. The four people are not defined by intelligence. They are defined by what they are willing to examine. But we still have not answered the most important question. What single ability connects all four ways of seeing? Consider a man receiving an angry message from his adult son. His first impulse is immediate. He feels disrespected. He begins typing a defensive reply. Then he stops. He asks, what story am I telling myself right now? He notices that pride wants to win. He notices that years of family tension are shaping his interpretation. He notices that being the father makes admitting fault especially uncomfortable. Then he rereads the message. For the first time, he sees pain where he originally saw disrespect. Nothing outside him changed. What changed was the position from which he was looking. That is the clue we have been building toward. The deepest truth about the world is not that everything is fake. It is not that everyone is manipulating you. It is not that society is secretly controlled by one mysterious group. Those explanations feel powerful because they turn complexity into a simple villain. Reality is usually more uncomfortable. Human beings construct stories. Human beings respond to incentives. Human beings conform to groups. Human beings protect beliefs that protect identity. And you are a human being too. That final sentence changes everything. Because awareness becomes dangerous when it only points outward. You can become brilliant at detecting everyone else's bias while remaining blind to your own. You can call other people manipulated while being manipulated by your need to feel smarter than them. You can reject one crowd only to join another crowd that congratulates you for rejecting the first. The trap simply changes clothes. This is where the major question finally has its answer. The ability connecting all four people is metacognition. In simple language, metacognition means noticing your own mind while it is operating. It is the ability to step outside your first reaction and examine how you reached it. It asks what evidence would change my mind. It asks what do I want to be true. It asks who benefits from this belief. It asks whether I believe something because it is accurate or because my group rewards it. That is the real dividing line. Seeing the world clearly begins with catching yourself seeing it incorrectly. And this ability can quietly transform ordinary life. During an argument, you stop trying to defeat your partner long enough to notice your defensiveness. At work, you recognize guilt disguised as loyalty. Inside your family, you notice a story that everyone inherited but nobody examined. When you fail, you stop turning one painful event into a permanent identity. When you succeed, you remember that confidence does not make you immune to error. You become harder to manipulate because you understand your emotional buttons. You become easier to correct because being wrong no longer feels like humiliation. And strangely, you may become calmer. You no longer need every disagreement to end with your victory. You no longer need the crowd to confirm every belief. You can say, I do not know without feeling weak. You can change your mind without feeling defeated. You can walk away from a familiar story when reality no longer supports it. That is a quieter form of strength than most people recognize. If this helped you recognize a pattern inside yourself that you had never been able to name, subscribe because this channel is built to make those invisible patterns easier to see. The world will always contain persuasion, pressure, bias, fear, loyalty, and competing stories. You will never become completely immune to them. The goal is not to become suspicious of everything. The goal is to become conscious of what shapes your perception, because the person who questions every illusion except their own is still trapped inside one, and perhaps the rarest person in the room is not the one who knows the truth. It is the one who remains willing to discover that what they called truth yesterday may need to change tomorrow.